always looked up to his older brother.
You and me, Jimmy. We're always gonna stick together.
But 27 years ago, he witnessed his murder.
Run, Jimmy, run!
And the death of the killers. Now they're back.
They came back for me.
The boys who killed your brother are dead.
Who are they? What do they want?
Leave my family out of this!
Stephen King moves through a world of obsession and revenge.
Can't keep running from them!
Tim Matheson, Brooke Adams, Stephen King, Sometimes They Come Back, Saturday.
Today we're talking about Sometimes They Come Back, the 90s television movie that spawned multiple physical releases, not to mention 2 sequels. When it comes to television movies, Sometimes They Come Back broke some ground and deserves more attention and credit than it seems to get these days. For us, continuing our journey through the night shift adaptations, this is technically our first stop at television. We did mention Battleground from Nightmares and Dreamscapes in the very first episode of the series, as well as Trucks in the Maximum Overdrive episode. The year is 1991, and the world is about to go through its Stephen King on the small screen era. According to Stephen King's website, only 2 other projects had aired on television. 1979's Salem's Lot, aka the miniseries that terrified a generation. This scene alone lives rent-free in my head, and truthfully, I'm okay with that. Pretty iconic imagery. Then, in 1990, It came to traumatize a whole new generation, while also, subsequently, terrifying that previous generation all over again. You know, just that Stephen King trauma we all seem to love and desire. The floodgates would soon be opened for Stephen King on television. By the year 2000, King would have 8 more projects airing on various broadcast networks. Originally, Dino De Laurentiis had intended Sometimes They Come Back to be the last story in the anthology movie Cat's Eye, but felt it would work better as a standalone full-feature film. In May of 1991, Sometimes They Come Back would air on CBS, and in an odd bit of trivia, this would be the last project that Dino De Laurentiis would work on with Stephen King. De Laurentiis had previously produced Dead Zone, Firestarter, Cat's Eye, Silver Bullet, and his production company worked on Maximum Overdrive. There's a healthy debate about the quality of some of those films. I kinda love them, but I also love movies for their flaws. I'm assuming you do too since you're watching my show, so in my case, I'm a little bummed this is all we got. Lawrence Connor was brought in to adapt the short story into a full feature film, and can we have a moment to appreciate this guy? Lawrence has worked on projects ranging from Little House on the Prairie to Star Trek The Undiscovered Country. But if you're an 80s kid, his credits include a movie that probably had a profound impact on you. Along with Mark Rosenthal, a longtime collaborator of his, he co-wrote The Legend of Billie Jean. He also worked on Superman 4: The Quest for Peace, so I'll just leave this here. Tom McLaughlin was brought in to direct. Tom has an extensive list of television movies he's directed. But for the sake of keeping up our horror cred, we'll mention he's a director that has the odd distinction of working within both the Friday the 13th and the Nightmare on Elm Street universes. Writing and directing Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives, as well as directing episodes of both the Friday the 13th and the Nightmare on Elm Street television shows. He stayed busy on the Friday the 13th verse, writing the Pamela tapes for Friday the 13th, the video game, as well as a script for Jason Never Dies, a sequel to Jason Lives that never happened but still seems to stir the fanboy imaginations. Honestly, at this point, any new Jason movie would be great. And if you enjoyed Disney's Dark Age, you'll know him as STAR, Special Troops Arms Regiment from the Black Hole. Also, and I don't feel like I talk about this enough on this channel, so here's me fixing that, The special effects are top-notch, particularly again for a television movie in 1991. As with other movies we've talked about, practical effects really help this one to stand out. Keep in mind Lawnmower Man, if we're trying to keep this King-centric, came out the following year, and well, even with a budget over triple Sometimes They Come Back, 3 million versus 10 million, and because they chose to go CGI, it simply doesn't hold up. Martin, or sometimes Marty Brezen, also worked on The Abyss, Candyman, Tremors, and The Entity. He also worked as a stuntman in many of his films. He was a stunt driver in this movie too. The scene in the back of the car really stood out for me. It's visceral, and you can almost smell the decay. Just to reiterate, when you see stuff like this, from over 30 years ago, it really makes the case that practical effects should be more of a thing than they are. Sometimes They Come Back came out during a period when the 50s and 60s generation were going through their own version of nostalgia porn, with movies like Back to the Future, Peggy Sue Got Married, 1969, Platoon, and shows like China Beach and The Wonder Years were on the tube. Stephen King always loved playing off nostalgia in his stories, so works like Stand By Me and It fit in perfectly with the vibe. The short story for Sometimes They Come Back itself hits on a couple of Stephen King's favorite topics: childhood trauma, that previously mentioned nostalgia porn, and bullies. I mean, does anybody write a bully better than Stephen King? The Bowers Gang, John Merrill, Buddy Repperton, just about everyone in Carrie. And well, this list could go on a while. That childhood trauma though, it comes back. Sorry, had to. It's a pretty great allegory because honestly, in one way or another, we're all dealing with some form of childhood trauma. Most of us probably had bullies as kids. Mine was especially vicious. His name was John, and much like a King novel, he carried a switchblade and threatened me with it often. I'm pretty sure John is in jail or dead, so I'm not worried about him coming back. But when I was younger, I worried about him being just about anywhere. Down an alley, in a store, ahead on the sidewalk. I digress. But it's the perfect example of why this trope works so well. Psychologically, we might think we've moved past things. But I know, if I saw John today, my heart rate would probably skyrocket. Especially if, like in the story, he came back as his younger self, looking exactly like he did back then. In both the short story and the movie, the plot revolves around a teacher, Jim Norman, whose students keep getting killed and replaced with his childhood bullies, the same bullies that killed his brother. In the short story, they're doing it because of unfinished business, and in the movie, they're doing it because Jim inadvertently causes their deaths. The movie differs quite a bit, but keeps the structure of that short story. Many of the elements remain the same. It's a well-made movie that, honestly, should have probably been released in theaters. It's well-paced, the production is superb for 1991. You can tell the actors were invested, and they really convey each situation with honest emotions, whatever I mean by that. What I'm getting at is that it's good. It's a good movie. Let's talk about Tim Matheson. I'm not even going to try and fit his filmography into a few seconds, but if you're old like me, you probably first remember him in Animal House. He worked long before that. He was even a Hardy Boy at one time, and he's worked consistently ever since. This role really shows his range. He's sensitive, angry, scared, in love, and you really get the sense that Hollywood, even after decades of work, still managed to miss out on fully utilizing him. Not to be outdone, Brooke Adams, who plays Sally, Jim's wife, is also a heavyweight, also still working. But you might know her from The Dead Zone, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Days of Heaven, or The Unborn. She even showed up during a commercial in The Stuff. I've been biding my time till I could talk about Robert Russler. Yeah, I know he was in Nightmare on Elm Street too, but for me, he'll always be AJ in Vamp. A movie I will always, what do the kids say these days? Stan. I will always stan this movie. Russler, in regards to his transformation in Sometimes They Come Back, has mentioned that he learned a lot from Robert Englund on the set of Nightmare. It was a lot of fun. I had learned a lot from Robert Englund, and watching him go through the steps of his makeup process on Nightmare 2, he would really allow the makeup to influence his disposition as far as an approach from a method actor standpoint, you know? He would take on the role slowly as the makeup was progressing, and I liked watching him. He would be really friendly and open in the morning, and then halfway through makeup I'd say something like, "Hey Robert, you want a coffee?" And he'd go, "Fuck off, Russler," right in the middle of a friendly story. He would look in the mirror and just let his character just take over. It was great. Also, I want to give a quick shout out to an actor that left an impression on me. Playing Wayne Norman, the brother killed at the beginning of the movie, and the short story, Chris Demetral, really captured that big brother energy. It's not a significant role. He only has a couple things to do: die and be a comforting big brother. And he does both well. To the point that you wish there was more flashback scenes with him. First and foremost, damn, we cared about our hair back then. Look at this. Gen X might be responsible for climate change, just with our use of hairspray alone. This is a great movie. No need to place the qualifier of TV movie onto it. Had it been shown in theaters, I bet it would have made some money. Graveyard Shift and Sleepwalkers weren't far off from this, and, debatably, this is a better movie than both of those. I think one of my only complaints about this movie is that, spoilers if you haven't read the short story, the ending doesn't go as dark. In the short story, the ghost bullies kill his wife, and he ends up turning to black magic, summoning a demon to take the bullies back to hell. And of course, once you make a deal with the demon, you have to pay the price. And the short story ends on a bit of a cliffhanger. The demon asks for a couple fingers, yes, fingers, in order to deal with the bullies, but then comes back at the end and presumably, possibly, takes Jim as well. But we don't know because of that enigmatic ending. In this era of remakes and reboots, I wonder how long until someone decides to revisit this little gem. I feel it holds up well, but I'd love to see that original ending put on screen. Could be epic. Not too bad for a little story from a book released nearly 2 decades previous. It's pretty wild that adaptations from this book are still coming out and that King still has such an influence over television and the theater. I don't think I've ever seen the sequels to Sometimes They Come Back, but revisiting this classic, I'm kind of forced to give them a go. I'll lower my expectations a little bit, but there was magic here, and I'm curious to see how much it carried over. So there you have it. A project for your next Friday night. Grab some snacks, your beverage of choice, and get you some of that nostalgia porn. Next time, we'll discuss The Mangler. And also, if you made it this far, thanks for watching, and hit that like and subscribe button. See you next time.